Most men your age were never taught how desire actually works. You were taught responsibility, duty, endurance, silence. You were taught how to provide, how to protect, how to stay standing even when no one asked how you were holding up. And now, later in life, something quietly unsettling happens. You realize that attraction did not retire when you did. Desire did not disappear with the wrinkles. And intimacy, real intimacy, still wants something from you. But it is no longer asking for effort. It is asking for presence. Many men believe women stop noticing them after a certain age, that invisibility arrives like a verdict. But what actually happens is more confronting. Women are still looking. They are just looking differently. At this stage of life, a woman is no longer scanning for potential. She is scanning for truth. She is asking without words, is this man alive inside himself? Has he made peace with who he has been? Can he hold tension without collapsing or controlling? And she answers these questions in seconds. Not by listening to what you say, but by reading what your body reveals. Your body has become your biography. Every posture, every gesture, every breath tells a story about how you have lived, how you have loved, and how you relate to yourself now. This is not about youth. It is not about performance. And it is certainly not about proving anything. This is about whether you still inhabit yourself. Because desire, especially mature desire, does not chase energy. It responds to it. It moves toward grounded men. Men who are not rushing toward approval. Men who are comfortable with pauses, with silence, with not needing to be impressive. If you think women are no longer watching you, you are mistaken. They are watching more carefully than ever. They are reading the parts of you that cannot lie. And in the next moments, we are going to explore exactly what they notice first. What signals safety instead of need, strength instead of rigidity, and why after 60, attraction becomes less about what you do and more about how you exist. Stay with me, because this may change how you see yourself and how you are seen from this point forward. When a woman looks at you now, the first place she goes is not your body in the way you might imagine. She goes to your eyes, not to judge their sharpness or their age, but to sense whether someone is home. Eyes are the doorway to emotional availability, and at this stage of life, they tell a far deeper story than any physique ever could. Your eyes reveal how you relate to the world. They show whether you are curious or withdrawn, open or guarded, alive or merely functioning. Many men were taught to manage life by narrowing their gaze. Focus, solve, endure. It worked for building careers, raising families, surviving pressure. But desire does not respond to endurance. Desire responds to presence. A woman looks into your eyes to see if you are still in conversation with life, not chasing it, not resisting it, but engaged with it. She wants to know if you can meet her without scanning for approval or bracing for rejection. Eyes that dart, harden, or avoid signal a man who is either defending himself or trying to impress. Neither feels safe, neither invites closeness. What feels compelling is a gaze that can rest, a gaze that can stay without demanding, a gaze that can soften without disappearing. This kind of looking says, I am here, and I am not afraid of what I might feel. For many men, emotional availability was never encouraged. You were rewarded for composure, not expression. Strength was measured by how little leaked out. Over time, this taught the eyes to become strategic, watchful, contained, efficient. But intimacy reads that as distance. Women over 60 are no longer interested in decoding mixed signals or earning access to a man's inner world. They have lived too long, lost too much, learned too deeply. When they look into your eyes, they are asking one essential question. Can this man meet me without hiding behind himself? Eyes that carry warmth without urgency communicate emotional maturity. They suggest a man who has felt disappointment without becoming bitter, who has loved without needing to own, who has learned that closeness does not require control. This is not softness in the sense of weakness. It is softness that comes from confidence. Confidence that you do not need to dominate a moment to belong in it. There is also grief in the eyes of men your age, losses that were never fully spoken, dreams that changed shape, relationships that ended or quieted. Women can see that too. The difference is not whether grief exists, but whether it has been metabolized or buried. Eyes that have processed grief tend to be deeper, calmer, more dimensional. Eyes that have not often feel close, sharp, or distant. Emotional availability does not mean constant openness or emotional display. It means the capacity to be touched by what is happening without shutting down or overwhelming the space. A woman senses whether your eyes can receive her presence without consuming it or deflecting it. At this stage of life, attraction is no longer fueled by fantasy alone. It is anchored in reality. Women are drawn to men whose eyes reveal a relationship with themselves that is honest, not perfect. Honest. Eyes that say, I know who I am and I am still interested in discovering more. Many men believe that aging has made them invisible. But invisibility often comes not from age but from emotional retreat. When a man stops being curious, his eyes dim. When he stops engaging, they harden or fade. Re-engaging with life, ideas, conversations, sensations, restores aliveness far more than any external change. This does not require reinventing yourself. It requires returning to yourself, allowing yourself to be moved again by music, by humor, by beauty, by conversation that goes beyond logistics. When you are moved, your eyes follow. Women notice whether your eyes listen or interrupt, whether they rush ahead or stay present, whether they soften when something meaningful is shared or remain guarded. Listening with your eyes communicates respect. It says, your experience matters here. That alone creates a subtle but powerful form of attraction. There is also something deeply reassuring about a man whose eyes are not searching for escape. A gaze that stays in the room, in the moment, signals stability. It suggests a man who can tolerate closeness without panicking and distance without chasing. This balance is rare and it is magnetic. Attraction after 60 is not about being impressive. It is about being available. A man whose eyes reflect interest rather than performance invites connection without pressure. He creates space rather than demand. Women feel this immediately, even if they cannot articulate it. If you want to understand how you are perceived, pay attention to your own gaze. Notice where it goes when you feel uncertain. Do you look away? Do you tighten? Do you try to manage the impression you are making? These are learned responses, not fixed traits. Awareness alone begins to soften them. When your eyes can meet another without agenda, without armor, without withdrawal, something profound happens. You become legible, and legibility is deeply attractive. It allows a woman to relax into her own presence rather than guarding it. This is why the eyes come first. They announce whether intimacy is possible long before a word is spoken. And when a woman sees that you are truly there, calm, curious, and hidden, she does not see your age, she sees your depth. After the eyes, a woman reads your posture, not in a superficial way, not as a judgment of fitness or age, but as a living record of how you have carried your life. Your posture tells her whether you are still in dialogue with the world or whether you have quietly withdrawn from it. Posture is memory made visible. It reflects decades of responsibility, compromise, pride, disappointment, effort, and sometimes resignation. The shoulders know what you have held. The spine knows how often you have stood alone. The way you enter a room reveals whether you feel entitled to your own space or apologetic for taking it. Many men learned early that strength meant bracing. You learn to square the shoulders, tighten the jaw, push through. Over time, that bracing becomes permanent. The body forgets how to rest in itself. What once felt like discipline becomes rigidity. And rigidity, though often mistaken for strength, signals something very different to a woman. She is not looking for collapse. She is not drawn to a man who has given up on himself or on life. But she is equally wary of a man who is still fighting battles that no longer exist. A rigid posture suggests a man who is armored against feeling. A collapsed posture suggests a man who has lost his sense of direction. Neither invites intimacy. What draws her in is a posture that is upright without being stiff, grounded without being heavy. A body that seems to say, I have lived and I am still here. This kind of posture reflects self-respect rather than self-protection. It signals a man who has integrated his past instead of being haunted by it. At this stage of life, women are acutely sensitive to whether a man has made peace with his story. Your posture answers that question before you ever speak. A man who stands comfortably in his body suggests that he is not at war with time, with aging, or with himself. That ease is deeply reassuring. There is something profoundly attractive about a man who does not rush, who does not shrink, who does not over-assert. A steady posture communicates inner authority, not dominance, authority, the kind that comes from knowing who you are without needing to announce it. Women notice how you sit when you listen. Are you leaning forward with interest or leaning back in withdrawal? Are your shoulders open or pulled inward? These details are not accidental. They reveal whether you are available for connection or guarding yourself from it. Many men underestimate how much their posture communicates emotional states. A man who has spent years suppressing emotion often carries tension in his upper body. The chest tightens, the shoulders rise, the breath becomes shallow. To a woman, this does not read as strength. It reads as containment bordering on constriction. Desire requires space, emotional space, physical space, psychological space. A posture that allows for breath creates that space. A posture that constricts, it pushes others away, even if the man himself longs for closeness. There is also dignity in posture. Dignity does not come from standing tall out of pride, but from standing grounded in self-acceptance. When a man has stopped trying to prove himself, his body reflects it. The movements become economical. The stance becomes stable. The presence becomes calm. Women over 60 are not seduced by performance. They have seen enough of it. They are drawn to coherence. When a man's posture aligns with his words, his values, and his emotional tone, it creates trust. Incoherence, strong words paired with a guarded body, creates unease. Your posture also reveals how you relate to vulnerability. A man who cannot soften his stance often struggles to soften emotionally. He may be kind, intelligent, generous, yet still inaccessible. The body leads where the mind resists. Softening does not mean weakening. It means allowing gravity to work with you instead of fighting it. It means letting the shoulders drop, the chest breathe, the spine lengthen naturally. This kind of embodiment signals a man who is at home in himself. Women feel safer around men who are embodied. A grounded posture suggests emotional regulation. It suggests a nervous system that is not constantly on alert. This matters deeply, especially later in life when safety becomes a prerequisite for desire. There is also a subtle eroticism in ease. Not the urgency of youth, but the confidence of someone who knows he does not need to rush the moment. A relaxed posture invites slowness. Slowness allows anticipation. Anticipation is where desire lives. When a man carries himself with quiet assurance, it allows a woman to relax her own defenses. She does not feel scrutinized or pressured. She feels met. That is the beginning of intimacy. If you want to understand your own posture, notice how you stand when no one is watching. Notice how you sit when you are tired, when you are engaged, when you feel uncertain. These are honest moments. They reveal how you treat yourself. The body can be retrained, not through force, but through awareness. When you allow yourself to take up space without apology, something shifts internally. You stop asking for permission to exist, and that shift is felt by others immediately. Attraction at this age is not about becoming someone new. It is about releasing what you no longer need to carry. When the body lets go of old defenses, presence emerges naturally. A woman does not fall for posture itself. She responds to what posture represents: self-respect, emotional maturity, and a man who is no longer hiding from his own life. And when you stand like you belong in your own skin, you invite her to believe that there may be room for her there too. Then there are the hands, quiet, often unnoticed, yet profoundly revealing. Long before touch becomes intimate, a woman watches what your hands do when nothing is required of them. Hands tell the story of how you relate to power, to patience, to other people, and to yourself. Hands are where intention becomes visible. They show whether a man knows how to act without imposing, how to offer without taking, how to be present without controlling. At this stage of life, women are not looking for force or urgency. They are looking for steadiness. Many men have spent decades using their hands to fix, to build, to provide, hands that worked hard, that carried weight, that solved problems. There is pride in that, and rightly so. But over time, the same hands can become habitual in their tension, clenched, restless, impatient. What once signaled competence can begin to signal pressure. A woman notices whether your hands are calm or fidgeting, whether they move with intention or nervous energy, whether they interrupt the space between you or respect it. This is not about manners. It is about emotional containment. Hands that move too quickly often belong to a man who is anxious to be received. Hands that invade space belong to a man who does not sense boundaries. Hands that remain rigid and distant often belong to a man who is afraid of his own desire. None of these create safety. What feels deeply attractive is a man whose hands are at ease, not passive, at ease. Hands that can rest without withdrawal, that can gesture without ration, that can touch without claiming. This kind of ease communicates something essential. I am regulated. I am not overwhelmed by closeness. I am not afraid of it either. Women read hands as indicators of how a man will be in intimacy. Will he rush? Will he listen? Will he sense her responses? Or will he impose his own rhythm? Long before physical closeness, these questions are answered silently. There is also a moral dimension to hands. They reveal how a man handles responsibility. Hands that are controlled, but gentle, suggest a man who knows his strength and does not need to prove it. Hands that are rough in their movements, even when unnecessary, suggest unresolved aggression or impatience. At this stage of life, desire is inseparable from trust. And trust grows when a woman senses that a man can contain his impulses, that his desire does not spill into demand, that his interest does not come with pressure. Hands that know how to wait are powerful. They say, I can tolerate anticipation. They say, I am not here to take something from you. They say, you are safe to choose. For many men, touch has been either functional or sexual, with little space in between. But intimacy lives in the in-between, in gestures that are not goal-oriented, in movements that are responsive rather than directive. Amen. Notice how you use your hands when you speak. Are they expressive without being theatrical? Do they emphasize meaning or distract from it? Do they mirror your words or contradict them? Congruence creates comfort. Incongruence creates doubt. There is also tenderness in hands that have lived. Lines, marks, evidence of time. These do not repel, they humanize. What matters is not the appearance of the hands, but the relationship you have with them. Are they instruments of control or extensions of care? Hands that grip too tightly often belong to a man who fears loss. Hands that never reach out often belong to a man who fears rejection. The middle ground, the capacity to reach without grasping, is where attraction settles. A woman also watches how your hands interact with the world, how you hold a cup, how you open a door, how you touch an object with care or disregard. These small movements reveal whether you move through life with awareness or with impatience. Presence is physical. It lives in the body, and hands are one of its most honest expressions. You cannot fake steadiness in the hands for long. They reveal what the nervous system is doing beneath the surface. When a man is comfortable in his body, his hands slow down. They become more intentional. They no longer rush to fill silence or manage uncertainty. That slowing down is felt by others as grounding. For women later in life, grounding is erotic, not the excitement of chaos, but the pleasure of stability, the sense that one can lean in without being overwhelmed or erased. Hands also communicate generosity, not the generosity of giving things, but the generosity of attention. Hands that remain open signal openness. Hands that close into fists even unconsciously signal defensiveness. If you want to understand what your hands are communicating, observe them when you are nervous, when you are interested, when you are unsure. These are moments when habits emerge. Awareness alone begins to soften them. As men age, there is an opportunity to transform how power is expressed. Less through force, more through presence. Less through doing, more through being. Hands that embody this shift become deeply compelling. A woman does not fall in love with hands. She falls in love with what they represent: safety, reliability, restraint, and care. She feels whether your hands can hold complexity without tightening around it, and when your hands show that you know how to hold. Without gripping, she understands that intimacy with you will feel like refuge, not risk. Then she listens to your mouth, not just to the words you choose, but to how you choose them, when you hold them back and when you let silence speak instead. At this stage of life, your mouth reveals your relationship with restraint, with emotion, and with power far more than it reveals your intelligence. Many men believe attraction lives in saying the right thing, in being clever, informative, persuasive, but mature desire is not sparked by volume or performance. It is shaped by regulation, by knowing when to speak and when not to, by sensing the moment rather than feeling it. Women notice whether your mouth is relaxed or tight, whether your jaw is clenched or soft. These are not cosmetic details. They are signals of your inner state. A clenched jaw often belongs to a man who is holding back anger, fear, or urgency. A tight mouth suggests vigilance. Neither invites ease. A relaxed mouth suggests a man who is not bracing against the world, a man who is not afraid that something will spill out if he loosens control. This kind of relaxation communicates emotional confidence. It says, I trust myself enough to be here. Women also listen for rhythm. Do you rush your words or do you allow pauses? Do you speak to be heard or do you speak to connect? A man who feels every silence often fears what silence might reveal. But silence, when held calmly, creates depth. It allows anticipation. It creates space for mutual presence. At this stage of life, women are less interested in what you know and more interested in how you relate. A man who listens fully, without preparing his next sentence, without interrupting, without correcting, communicates respect. That respect is felt viscerally. Your mouth also reveals how you handle emotion. Do you over-explain when something feels vulnerable? Do you retreat into silence when something feels uncomfortable? Do you use humor to deflect or authority to dominate? These patterns are familiar to women. They have lived with them, negotiated them, sometimes suffered under them. What feels different is a man who can name experience without dramatizing it, who can say enough without saying too much, who can express interest without pressure, who can express disagreement without aggression. Attraction after 60 is not about intensity. It is about coherence. When your words match your tone and your tone matches your body, trust forms. When they do not, something closes. Women notice how you speak about other people, about past partners, about yourself. A man who speaks with bitterness, contempt, or self-pity signals unresolved emotional work. A man who speaks with honesty and proportion signals integration. This does not mean sanitizing your story. It means owning it without leaking it into the present moment. A man who has metabolized his experiences speaks from clarity rather than grievance. Your mouth also reveals whether you are comfortable with desire. Some men avoid speaking anything that could be interpreted as interest, out of fear of rejection or impropriety. Others speak desire too quickly, too directly, as if urgency might compensate for uncertainty. Both approaches create discomfort. Desire expressed with restraint is deeply attractive. It allows the other person to respond freely. It says, I am interested and I respect your autonomy. That balance is rare and it matters more than ever later in life. Women listen for generosity in conversation. Do you ask questions that open space or questions that corner? Do you respond to what is shared or redirect back to yourself? Conversation is not an exchange of information. It is a choreography of attention. A man who knows how to let a converse. Asian breathe communicates emotional intelligence. He does not need to dominate the narrative. He trusts that connection emerges in the shared pauses as much as in the words. Your mouth also reveals how you manage conflict. Even in subtle moments, women sense whether you become defensive, dismissive, or curious when challenged. Curiosity is seductive. Defensiveness is exhausting. At this stage of life, women are not looking to teach emotional literacy. They want to meet someone who has already done some of that work, someone who can stay present when things are complex. There is also humility in speech, not self-deprecation but proportion. A man who does not inflate himself, who does not minimize himself, who speaks from a grounded sense of worth, creates ease. Ease is fertile ground for desire. If you want to understand what your mouth is communicating, notice how you speak when you feel uncertain. Do you speed up? Do you talk louder? Do you withdraw? These habits are learned, not fixed. Awareness changes them. As men age, the opportunity is not to speak more, but to speak truer, to let words carry weight instead of volume, to let silence carry meaning instead of anxiety. Women respond to men whose words feel inhabited, words that come from the body, not just the mind, words that do not try to manage the outcome. When your mouth can express interest without insistence, truth without excess, and silence without fear, something shifts. You become easier to be with, and when a woman feels that your words create space rather than pressure, she begins to lean in, not because she is persuaded, but because she feels met. Then there is the chest, subtle, easily overlooked, yet one of the most honest signals a man offers without ever intending to. A woman does not read your chest for muscle or shape. She reads it for breath, for grounding, for whether your nervous is. Tem feels settled enough to invite another person close. Your chest tells her how you meet life, whether you brace against it or receive it, whether you are constantly preparing for impact or allowing yourself to be affected. Long before intimacy becomes physical, she senses whether being near you will feel calming or activating. Many men learned early to hold their breath, not literally but emotionally. You learn to tighten the chest to contain fear, anger, sadness, longing. Over time, this containment became habit. The chest became a place of armor rather than openness. It kept you functional. It helped you endure. But desire does not grow in endurance. It grows in aliveness. A woman notices whether your breathing is shallow or full, rushed or slow. This is not a conscious analysis. It is a bodily response. Her body is listening to yours, asking a simple question: is it safe to soften here? A tight chest often signals a man who is managing anxiety beneath the surface. He may be kind, intelligent, accomplished, yet his body feels vigilant. Vigilance does not invite closeness. It keeps others at a distance, even when the intention is connection. A relaxed chest suggests something very different. It suggests a man who is not fighting the moment, a man who is comfortable with uncertainty, a man whose sense of self does not collapse when things are undefined. This kind of comfort is deeply attractive, especially later in life. Women over 60 have little patience for emotional chaos. They have already lived through intensity, drama, urgency. What they seek now is resonance. They want to feel that being near you will regulate rather than destabilize them. Your chest also reveals how you handle vulnerability. When something touches you emotionally, does your breath stop? Does your chest tighten? Or does it expand just enough to let the feeling move through? Expansi. Does not mean exposure. It means permeability. A man who can breathe through emotion communicates emotional maturity. He does not need to shut down to survive feeling. He does not need to escalate to feel alive. He can stay. This ability to stay is rare, and rarity is erotic. There is also authority in a grounded chest. Not the authority of command, but the authority of presence. A man who breathes fully takes up space naturally. He does not need to assert it, he occupies it. Women feel this immediately. A grounded chest signals that a man is not seeking validation from her. He is not leaning in to be filled. He is standing in himself. That independence creates polarity. Polarity creates desire. The chest also holds unspoken grief. Loss accumulates there. Loss of people, roles, identities, futures imagined, and futures that never arrived. When grief is unacknowledged, it hardens the chest. When it is felt and integrated, it deepens it. Women are not afraid of a man who has known loss. They are wary of a man who has not made room for it. A chest that can hold grief without closing signals emotional depth. Depth invites trust. Breathing is a dialogue with life. When you allow the breath to move freely, you signal openness to experience. When the breath is constrained, you signal control. Control can feel impressive, but it rarely feels inviting. At this stage of life, attraction is less about excitement and more about coherence. A man whose breath, posture, words, and presence aligned creates a sense of reliability. Reliability does not dull desire. It stabilizes it. Women, notice how your chest responds to closeness. Does it tighten when someone moves nearer emotionally? Does it soften when connection deepens? These responses are often unconscious, but they are felt. A man who can remain open in his chest while maintaining his boundaries communicates something powerful. I am not afraid of intimacy and I am not dependent on it. That balance creates safety without dulling desire. There is also something profoundly calming about a man who breathes slowly. Slowness in breath signals a nervous system that is not in a hurry. Haste creates pressure. Slowness creates invitation. Many men believe they must bring energy into a room, but mature attraction often comes from reducing noise, not adding to it. A calm chest quiets the space. In that quiet, connection emerges. If you want to understand what your chest communicates, notice your breathing when you are with someone you want to impress. Does it become shallow? Faster? Do you hold it? These are signals of performance. Performance exhausts both parties. Presence, on the other hand, is restful. When you allow yourself to breathe normally deeply, you signal that you are not performing. You are participating. The chest is also where confidence lives. Not bravado, but self-trust. A man who trusts himself breathes differently. He does not need to inflate his chest to appear strong, nor collapse it to disappear. He allows it to be. Women respond to this authenticity. They feel it as steadiness. Steadiness allows desire to unfold at its own pace. As men age, the opportunity is not to harden, but to soften without weakening, to allow the chest to open enough to feel while remaining grounded enough to stay intact. When your chest is open, your presence becomes welcoming rather than demanding. You create a space where another person can arrive without being pulled or pushed. And when a woman senses that your breath invites calm rather than tension, she understands that being close to you will feel like exhale, not effort. And finally, she notices your feet, not in a literal evaluative way, but as a quiet measure of where you stand in your life and whether you are still willing to move forward from that place. Feet reveal direction, stability, and readiness in ways the mind cannot disguise. Your feet tell her if you are rooted or restless, if you are grounded in your choices or still hovering between chapters you never fully closed. At this stage of life, women are not interested in potential. They are interested in position. Where are you standing now, and are you at peace with that place? Many men spent years moving for others, for work, for family, for obligation. You walked where you were needed, not always where you wanted. Over time, this can create a subtle disconnection from your own sense of direction. The feet keep walking, but the inner compass grows quiet. A woman senses this. She notices whether your feet are planted or shifting, whether your stance feels settled or evasive. Restlessness in the feet often belongs to a man who has not yet arrived in himself, still searching, still avoiding, still negotiating with a past that has not released him. Grounded feet communicate something profoundly attractive. I know where I stand. I am not drifting. I am not waiting to be rescued from my own life. This does not mean certainty about everything. It means commitment to where you are. Feet that are firmly planted suggest emotional availability in a different form. not the openness of the eyes or the breadth of the chest, but the readiness to stay, to not run when things deepen, to not disappear when intimacy asks for consistency. Women over 60 have experienced abandonment in many forms, sudden departures, emotional withdrawals, men who were present in body but absent in intention. Feet that seem prepared to leave signal a familiar disappointment. What reassures her is a man whose stance says, I am here and I am not in a hurry to escape. This does not create pressure. It creates trust. Trust is the soil in which desire grows later. In life, your feet also reveal how you relate to time. A man who is always leaning forward, weight on the toes, signals impatience. A man who leans back, weight on the heels, signals withdrawal. Balance suggests presence. Presence suggests readiness. Women notice how you move through space. Do you rush? Do you hesitate? Do you move with intention? Movement reveals confidence without words. A man who walks with calm purpose suggests inner alignment. There is also something deeply grounding about a man who knows how to stand still. Stillness is not stagnation, it is containment. It signals that you do not need constant motion to feel alive, that you are comfortable inhabiting the moment. At this stage of life, women are drawn to men who have arrived somewhere internally, not finished, not fixed, but arrived enough to stop wandering without awareness. Feet that are grounded suggest that you are not asking a woman to give your life direction. Feet also communicate boundaries. A man who stands too close without sensing distance signals intrusion. A man who stands too far signals fear. The ability to sense appropriate distance is felt through the body long before it is articulated. Women sense whether your feet are oriented toward them or away, whether your body subtly angles out, preparing for exit. These cues are small, but they are decisive. They tell her whether your interest is real or tentative. There is also humility in grounded feet. A man who stands evenly does not elevate himself above others, nor diminish himself. He meets the world at eye level. That equality creates ease. As men age, the relationship with the future changes. The horizon feels different. This can create either urgency or clarity. Urgency shows up as restlessness. Clarity shows up as steadiness. Women respond to clarity. Steadiness does not mean lack of desire. It means desire without P. Anik. A man who knows where he stands can want without grasping. He can choose without desperation. That quality is deeply reassuring. Your feet also reveal whether you are ready for intimacy now, not someday. Many men speak about connection while standing half in and half out of their lives. Women feel this immediately. It creates confusion. A man whose feet are planted signals availability, not neediness but openness. He is not waiting for life to begin. He's already living it. If you want to understand what your feet communicate, notice where your weight rests when you feel uncertain. Do you shift? Do you step back? Do you pace? These are bodily expressions of internal states. Awareness brings choice. As men grow older, there is an opportunity to stop running and start standing, to let the body reflect the inner decision to be present for what remains. Women are not asking you to promise forever. They are asking you to show up now, fully, with both feet on the ground. And when your stance tells her that you are not going anywhere, not because you are stuck, but because you have chosen to stay, she understands that intimacy with you will feel like solid ground.